Hey, welcome back to Yehusha's Glory, everybody. We're going to get back into the book of Jasher. We are in chapter 45. That's on page 389. There's a little forward here. It just says we're going to start talking about an account of the families of Jacob's sons. We're going to jump right into it. And it was at that time in that year, which is the year of Joseph's going down to Mitzrayim after his brothers had sold him, that Reuben, the son of Jacob, went to Timnah and took unto him for a woman Eliuram, the daughter of Avi, the Canaanite, and he came to her. And Eliuram, the woman of Reuben, conceived and bore him Hanuk, Palu, Chetzron, and Carmi, 4 sons. And Shimon, his brother, took his sister Dinah, for a woman, and she bore unto him Yemuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yakin, and Sokar, 5 sons. And he afterward came to Bunah, the Canaanite woman. The same is Bunah whom Shimon took captive from the city of Shechem. And Bunah was before Dinah, and attended upon her. And Shimon came to her, and she bore unto him Shaul. And Yehuda went at that time to Adullam, and he came to a man of Adullam, and his name was Kira. And Yehuda saw there the daughter of a man from Canaan, and her name was Aliath, the daughter of Shua, and he took her and came to her, and Aliath bore unto Yehuda Onan, Shiloh, 3 sons. And Levi and Issachar went to the land of the east, and they took unto themselves for women the daughters of Jovav, the son of Yoktan, the son of Eber. And Joav, the son of Yoktan, had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Adinah, and the name of the younger was Aridah. And Levi took Adinah, and Issachar took Aridah, and they came to the land of Canaan, to their father's house. And Adinah bore unto Levi Gershon, Kohath, and Merari, 3 sons. And Aridah bore unto Issachar Tola, Pua, Yov, and Shimron, 4 sons. And Dan went to the land of Moab, and he took for a woman Aphlaleth, the daughter of Chamudan, the Moavi. And he brought her to the land of Canaan, and Aphlaleth was barren. She had no offspring. And Elohim afterward remembered Aphlaleth, the woman of Dan, and she conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Chushaim. And Gad and Naphtali went to Haran, and took from thence the daughters of Amram, the son of Utz, the son of Nachor, 4 women. And these are the names of the daughters of Amram. The name of the elder was Merima. The name of the younger, Uzith. And Naphtali took Merima, and Gad took Uzith, and brought them to the land of Canaan, to their father's house. And Merima bore unto Naphtali Yaxel, Guni, Yester, and Shilem, 4 sons. And Uzith bore unto Gad Siphion, Chagi, Shuni, Etzbon, Eri, Arvadi, and Areli, 7 sons. And Asher went forth and took Adon, the daughter of Aphthal, the son of Hadad, the son of Ishmael, for a woman, and he brought her to the land of Canaan. And Adon, the woman of Asher, died in those days. She had no offspring, and it was after the death of Adon that Asher went to the other side of the river and took for a woman Hadurah, the daughter of Avimael, the son of Eber, the son of Shem. And the young woman was of a comely appearance and a woman of sense, and she had been the woman of Malchiel, the son of Elam, the son of Shem. And Hadurah bore a daughter unto Malchiel, and he called her name Sarah. And Malchiel died after this, and Hadurah went and remained in her father's house. And after the death of the woman of Asher, he went and took Hadurah for a woman, and brought her to the land of Canaan, and Sarah, her daughter, he also brought with them, and she was 3 years old, and the damsel was brought up in Jacob's house. And the damsel was of a comely appearance, and she went in the sanctified ways of the children of Jacob. She lacked nothing, and Yahuwah gave her wisdom and understanding. And Hadurah, the woman of Asher, conceived and bore unto him Yimnah, Yishvai, and Beriah, 4 sons. And Zebulun went to Midian and took for a woman Marisha, the daughter of Molad, the son of Avidah, the son of Midian, and brought her to the land of Canaan. And Marusha bore unto Zebulun Sered, Elon, and Yachiel, 3 sons. And Jacob sent to Aram, the son of Sova, the son of Terak, and he took for his son Binyamin Mehaliah, the daughter of Aram, and she came to the land of Canaan to the house of Jacob, and Binyamin was 10 years old when he took Mehaliah, the daughter of Aram, for a woman. And Mehaliah conceived and bore unto Binyamin Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gera, and Naaman, 5 sons. And Binyamin went afterward and took for a woman Aribath, the daughter of Shimron, the son of Abraham, in addition to his first woman, and he was 18 years old. And Aribath bore unto Binyamin Ehi, Rosh, Mupiim, Chupiim, and Ard, 5 sons. Now I'm going through all these names. We don't leave anything out here. This is showing you all of these generations of folks. It's just a big long list of names. If you want to chart it out, you can chart it out for yourself. I don't want to leave anything out. So thank you for sticking with me through those parts of these books. Okay, 23. And in those days, Yehuda went to the house of Shem and took Tamar, the daughter of Elam, the son of Shem, for a woman, for his firstborn And came to his woman Tamar, and she became his woman. And when he came to her, he outwardly destroyed his seed, and his work was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah slew him. Now, what he has done here, came to his woman Tamar, she became his woman, and when he came to her to procreate and make a child, he outwardly destroyed his seed, which means he did not inseminate the woman. His work was evil in the sight of Yahuwah. Yahuwah slew him. Okay? Now, and it was after the death of Yahuwah's firstborn, after the death of Yahuda's firstborn, that Yahuda said unto Onan, go to your brother's woman and marry her as the next of kin and raise up seed to your brother. So in other words, he wants him to impregnate the woman and make her his wife so that she can bring fruit for Father Yahuwah. Okay, anyway, and Onan took Tamar for a woman, and he came to her. And Onan also did like unto the work of his brother. So he did the same thing to her. And his work was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and he slew him also. And when Onan died, Yehuda said unto Tamar, remain in your father's house until my son Shiloh shall have grown up. And Yehuda did no more delight in Tamar to give her unto Shiloh, for he said, peradventure he will also die like his brothers. So he was afraid his son would also do the same thing to her and not give her a child. Okay, so, and Tamar rose up and went and remained in her father's house. And Tamar was in her father's house for some time, and at the revolution of the year, Aliath, the woman of Yehuda, died. And Yehuda was comforted for his woman. And after the death of Aliath, Yehuda went up with his friend Chira to Timnah to shear their sheep. And Tamar heard that Yehuda had gone up to Timnah to shear the sheep, and that Shiloh was grown up, and Yehuda did not delight in her. And Tamar rose up and put off the garments of her widowhood, and she put a veil upon her, and she entirely covered herself. And she went and sat in the public thoroughfare, which is upon the road to Timnah. And Yehuda passed and saw her, and took her, and came to her, and she conceived by him. And at the time of being delivered, behold, there were twins in her womb. And he called the name of the first Peretz, and the name of the second Zerach. So she kind of tricked him. It looks like she covered herself wholly, so that covered herself entirely, so Yehuda didn't even know who she was. Okay, Joseph interprets the dreams of his fellow prisoners. Okay, so now we're back to Joseph. He's in prison. Chapter 46, page 390 in the Sefer, book of Jasher. In those days, Joseph was still confined in the prison house in the land of Mitzrayim. At that time, the attendants of Pharaoh were standing before him, the chief of the butlers and the chief of the bakers, which belonged to the king of Mitzrayim. And the butler took wine and placed it before the king to drink, and the baker placed bread before the king to eat. And the king drank of the wine and ate of the bread, he and his servants and ministers that ate at the king's table. And while they were eating and drinking, the butler and the baker remained there, and Pharaoh's ministers found many flies in the wine which the butler had brought, and stones of niter were found in the baker's bread. And the captain of the guard placed Joseph as an attendant on Pharaoh's officers, and Pharaoh's officers were in confinement 1 year. All right, so the wine had flies in it, the bread was terrible, so he put them in prison for a year, and Joseph is now taking care of them in the prison. At the end of the year, they both dreamed dreams in one night in the place of confinement where they were. And in the morning, Joseph came to them to attend upon them as usual, and he saw them, and behold, their countenances were dejected and sad. And Joseph asked them, why are your countenances sad and dejected this day? And they said unto him, we dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. And Joseph said unto them, relate, I pray you, your dream unto me, and Elohim shall give you an answer of peace as you desire. And the butler related his dream unto Joseph, and he said, I saw in my dream, and behold, a large vine was before me, and upon that vine I saw 3 branches. And the vine speedily blossomed and reached a great height, and its clusters were ripened and became grapes. And I took the grapes and pressed them in a cup and placed it in Pharaoh's hand, and he drank. And Joseph said unto him, the 3 branches that were upon the vine are 3 days. Yet within 3 days the king will order you to be brought out, and he will restore you to your office, and you shall give the king his wine to drink, as at first when you were his butler. But let me find favor when you were his butler. But let me find favor in your sight, that you shall remember me to Pharaoh when it will be well with you. So in other words, remember me when you're out of this prison. Don't forget me. And do kindness unto me, and get me brought forth from this prison, for I was stolen away from the land of Canaan, and was sold for a slave in this place. And also that which was told you concerning my master's woman is false, for they placed me in this dungeon for naught. And the butler answered Joseph, saying, if the king deal well with me as at first, as you last interpreted to me, I will do all that you desire, and get you brought out of this dungeon. And the baker, seeing that Joseph had accurately interpreted the butler's dream, also approached and related the whole of his dream to Joseph. And he said unto him, in my dream, I saw, and behold, 3 white baskets upon my head. And I looked, and behold, there were in the uppermost basket all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh. And behold, the birds were eating them from off my head. And Joseph said unto him, the 3 baskets which you did see are 3 days. Yet within 3 days Pharaoh will take off your head and hang you upon a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh from off you, as you saw in your dream. So that's not a very good dream, is it? In those days, the queen was about to be delivered, and upon that day she bore a son unto the king of Mitzrayim, and they proclaimed that the king had gotten his firstborn son. And all the people of Mitzrayim, together with the officers and servants of Pharaoh, rejoiced greatly. And upon the third day of his birth, Pharaoh made a feast for his officers and servants, for the hosts of the land of Soar and the land of Mitzrayim. And all the people of Mitzrayim and the servants of Pharaoh came to eat and drink with the king at the feast of his son, and to rejoice at the king's rejoicing. And all the officers of the king and his servants were rejoicing at that time for 8 days at the feast. And they made merry with all sorts of musical instruments, with timbrels and with dances in the king's house for 8 days. And the butler, to whom Joseph had interpreted his dream, forgot Joseph, and he did not mention him to the king as he had promised, for this thing was from Yahuwah, in order to punish Joseph, because he had trusted in man. And Joseph remained after this in the prison house 2 years, until he had completed 12 years. So in other words, the butler did not mention Joseph sitting in prison. Father Yahuwah in heaven made that happen to punish Joseph, because Joseph asked for the help of man rather than asking for Yahuwah's help. Okay, Yitzhak blesses his 2 sons and dies. His property is divided. Esau takes all the personal property, and Jacob chooses the inheritance of the land of Canaan with the cave of Machpelah for a burying place. Chapter 47, page 391, Jasher. And Yitzhak, the son of Abraham, was still living in those days in the land of Canaan, and he was very aged, 180 years old. And Esau, his son, the brother of Jacob, was in the land of Edom, and he and his sons had possession in it amongst the children of Seir. And Esau heard that his father's time was drawing nigh to die, and he and his sons and household came unto the land of Canaan, unto his father's house in Jacob. And his sons went forth from the place where they dwelt in Chevron, and they all came to their father Yitzhak, and they found Esau and his sons in the tent. And Jacob and his sons sat before his father Yitzhak, and Jacob was still mourning for his son Joseph. And Yitzhak said unto Jacob, Bring me hither your sons, and I will bless them. And Jacob brought his 11 children before his father Yitzhak. And Yitzhak placed his hands upon all the sons of Jacob, and he took hold of them, and embraced them, and kissed them one by one. And Yitzhak blessed them on that day, and he said unto them, May the Elohim of your fathers bless you, and increase your seed like the stars of heaven for number. And Yitzhak also blessed the sons of Esau, saying, May Elohim cause you to be a dread and a terror to all that will behold you, and to all your enemies. And Yitzhak called Jacob and his sons, and they all came and sat before Yitzhak. And Yitzhak said unto Jacob, Yahuwah Elohim of the whole earth said unto me, Unto your seed will I give this land for an inheritance, if your children guard my statutes and my ways. And I will perform unto them the oath which I swore unto your father Abraham. Now therefore, my son, teach your children and your children's children to fear Yahuwah, and to do and to go in the good way which will please Yahuwah Elohika. For if you guard the ways of Yahuwah and his statutes, Yahuwah will also guard unto you his covenant with Abraham, and will do well with you and your seed all the days. That's a big if. I'm going to stop here a second. Father says, if you do what I ask and you follow my laws and my commandments, I will give you your land for an inheritance. If you teach it to your children and your children's children. That means pass it down, teach your children, generation after generation after generation. If you don't, then that's not a promise that he's going to keep to us. Anyhow, and when Yitzhak had finished commanding Jacob and his children, he gave up his ruach, or his spirit, and died, and was gathered unto his people. And Jacob and Esau fell upon the face of their father Isaac, and they wept. And Isaac was 180 years old when he died in the land of Canaan, in Chevron. And his sons carried him to the cave of Machpelah, which Abraham had bought from the children of Cheth for a possession of a burial place. And they mention that quite a bit, actually, this burial place, the cave of Machpelah. So, and all the kings of the land of Canaan went with Jacob and Esau to bury Isaac. And all the kings of Canaan showed Isaac great honor at his death. And the sons of Jacob and the sons of Esau went barefooted round about, walking and lamenting, until they reached Kiriath Arba. And Jacob and Esau buried their father Isaac in the cave of Machpelah, which is in Kiriath Arba in Chevron. And they buried him with very great honor, as at the funeral of kings. And Jacob and his sons, and Esau and his sons, and all the kings of Canaan made a great and heavy mourning, and they buried him and mourned for him many days. And at the death of Isaac, he left his cattle and his possessions, and all belonging to him, to his sons. And Esau said unto Jacob, Behold, I pray you, all that our father has left, we will divide it in 2 parts, and I will have the choice. And Jacob said, We will do so. And Jacob took all that Isaac had left in the land of Canaan, the cattle and the property, and he placed them in 2 parts before Esau and his sons. And he said unto Esau, Behold, all this is before you. Choose you unto yourself the half which you will take. So Esau gets the first choice. He gets prime choice. And Jacob said unto Esau, Hear you, I pray you, what I will speak unto you, saying, Yahuwah Elohim of heaven and earth spoke unto our fathers Abraham and Isaac, saying, Unto your seed will I give this land for an inheritance forever. Now therefore, all that our father has left is before you, and behold, all the land is before you. Choose you from them what you desire. If you desire the whole land, take it for you and your children forever, and I will take this riches. And if you desire the riches, take it unto you, and I will take this land for me and my children to inherit it forever. And Nebaioth, the son of Ishmael, was then in the land with his children, and Esau went on that day and consulted with him, saying, Thus has Jacob spoken unto me, and thus has he answered me. Now give me your advice, and we will hear. So he's got a choice. Take the riches, take the land, but you get first choice. And that's for Esau to decide. And Nebaioth said, What is this that Jacob has spoken unto you? Behold, all the children of Canaan are dwelling securely in their land. And Jacob says, He will inherit it with his seed all the days. Go now, therefore, and take all your father's riches, and leave Jacob your brother in the land as he has spoken. So he's advising him, take the riches, leave the land. Esau rose up and returned to Jacob and did all that Nebaioth, the son of Ishmael, had advised. And Esau took all the riches that Isaac had left, the souls, the beasts, the cattle, and the property, and all the riches. He gave nothing to his brother Jacob, and Jacob took all the land of Canaan, from the brook of Mitzrayim unto the river Parath, and he took it for an everlasting possession, and for his children and for his seed after him forever. So he didn't leave Jacob with any servants, that would be your souls, no cattle, no sheep, no goats, nothing, except for the raw land. So Jacob also took from his brother Esau the cave of Machpelah, which is in Chevron, which Abraham had bought from Ephron for a possession of a burial place for him and his seed forever. So they still have the burial place. And Jacob wrote all these things in the Sefer of Purchase. So Jacob kept a record of it, and he signed it, kind of a receipt. And he testified all this with 4 faithful witnesses. So all of this has been witnessed, that this would be as an inheritance of land forever to his seed. 27. And these are the words which Yaakov wrote in the Sefer. Okay, so now we're going to have a quote basically saying, the land of Canaan and all the cities of the Chittaim and Shivaim and Yevusaim and Emerim and Perizim and the Girgashim, all the 7 nations from the river of Mitzrayim unto the river Perath, all that land, and the city of Chevron, Kirat Arba, and the cave which is in it, the whole did Yaakov buy from his brother Esau for value, for a possession, and for an inheritance for his seed after him forever. Okay, so that's never to end, period. And Yaakov took the Sefer of purchase and the signature and the command and the statutes and the revealed Sefer, and he placed them in an earthen vessel, or a clay pot basically, in order that they should remain for a long time, and he delivered them into the hands of his children. All right, so he's got a receipt for the land. He's probably going to say, safeguard this. Esau, on the other hand, Esau took all that his father had left him after his death from his brother Yaakov, and he took all the property from man and beast, camel and ass, ox and lamb, silver and gold, stones and bdellium, and all the riches which had belonged to Isaac, the son of Abraham. There was nothing left which Esau did not take unto himself, from all that Isaac had left after his death. And Esau took all this, and he and his children went home to the land of Seir, the Kori, away from his brother Yaakov and his children. And Esau had possessions amongst the children of Seir, and Esau returned not to the land of Canaan from that day forward. Okay, so Esau leaves with all the riches. And the whole land of Canaan became an inheritance to the children of Israel, for an everlasting inheritance. And Esau, with all his children, inherited the mountain of Seir. Okay, so there you have it. It was written down, put it into a clay pot. It's an inheritance forever. Now, also in the background here, Yahuwah had promised that land if you keep the statutes and commandments. So there's something to remember as well, a little food for thought. Pharaoh's dreams. Okay, this is a kind of a preceding thought. Here, I'm going to read it to you. Pharaoh's dreams. Not receiving a satisfactory interpretation from the magician, he orders the wise men to be slain. The king's butler makes Joseph's gifts known to Pharaoh. Joseph is brought before the king, who relates his dreams to him. Joseph, by the gift of Elohim, interprets them. A great famine is predicted. Chapter 48, page 393, Book of Jasher, Sefer. In those days after the death of Isaac, Yahuwah commanded and caused a famine upon the whole earth. At that time, Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, was sitting upon his throne in the land of Mitzrayim, and lay in his bed and dreamed dreams. And Pharaoh saw in his dreams that he was standing by the side of the river of Mitzrayim. And while he was standing, he saw, and behold, 7 fat-fleshed and well-favored kine came up out of the river. Kine must be cows. And 7 other kine, lean-fleshed and ill-favored, came up and after them, and the 7 ill-favored ones swallowed up the well-favored ones, and still their appearance was ill as at first. So you have skinny animals coming out of the water and eating the fattened animals, but they still didn't look like they gained any weight from that. Okay, so there's the dream. Now after he awoke, he slept again, and he dreamed a second time, and he saw, and behold, 7 ears of grain come up upon one stalk, rank and good. So 7 ears of grain, 7 ears of corn come up on one stalk, and they looked really great, rank and good. 7 thin ears blasted with the east wind sprang up after them, and the thin ears swallowed up the full ones. So the same thing's kind of happening here, but now with grain. And Pharaoh awoke out of his dream. Okay. And in the morning the king remembered his dreams, and his ruach, his spirit, was sadly troubled on account of his dreams. And the king hastened and sent and called for all the magicians of Mitzrayim and the wise men. And they came and stood before Pharaoh, and the king said unto them, I have dreamed dreams, and there is none to interpret them. And they said unto the king, relate your dreams to your servants, and let us hear them. And the king related his dreams to them, and they all answered and said with one voice to the king, May the king live forever, and this is the interpretation of your dreams. The 7 good kine which you did see denote 7 daughters that will be born unto you in the latter days, and the 7 kine which you saw come up after them and swallowed them up are for a sign that the daughters which will be born unto you will all die in the lifetime of the king. And that which you did see in the second dream of 7 full good ears of grain, coming up upon one stalk, this is their interpretation, that you will build unto yourself in the latter days 7 cities throughout the land of Mitzrayim, and that which you saw of the 7 blasted ears of grain springing up after them and swallowing them up while you did behold them with your eyes is for a sign that the cities which you will build will all be destroyed in the latter days in the lifetime of the king. Okay, so their interpretation, of course, cows eating cows, you're going to have 7 daughters, but they're going to die while you're still alive. Corn eating corn, you're going to build 7 cities, they're going to get destroyed. And that's what they're trying to tell the king. And these are the wise men and magicians that he has advising him. And when they spoke these words, the king did not incline his ear to their words, neither did he fix his heart upon them, for the king knew in his wisdom that they did not give a proper interpretation of the dreams. And when they had finished speaking before the king answered them, saying, What is this thing you have spoken unto me? Surely you have uttered falsehood and spoken lies. Therefore now give the proper interpretation of my dreams, that you may not die. So in other words, he's saying, you're not telling me the truth. Give me a real interpretation or you're all going to be dead. And the king commanded after this, and he sent and called again for other wise men. And they came and stood before the king, and the king related his dreams to them. And they all answered him according to the first interpretation. And the king's anger was kindled, and he was very wroth. And the king said unto them, Surely you speak lies and utter falsehood in what you have said. And the king commanded that a proclamation should be issued throughout the land of Mitzrayim, saying, It is resolved by the king and his great men that any wise man who knows and understands the interpretation of dreams and will not come this day before the king, he shall die. So if anybody knows how to interpret dreams, basically the king said, if you don't show up here and interpret these dreams, you're going to be put to death. And that was a proclamation throughout the land. And the man that will declare unto the king the proper interpretation of his dreams, there shall be given unto him all that he will require from the king. So the one person there, whoever comes and gives a good proper interpretation, is going to be blessed with whatever he wants. All the wise men of the land of Mitzrayim came before the king, together with all the magicians and sorcerers that were in Mitzrayim and in Goshen and Rameshech, in Tachpanech and Soar, and in all the places on the borders of Mitzrayim, and they all stood before the king. And all the nobles and the princes and the attendants belonging to the king came together from all the cities of Mitzrayim, and they all sat before the king. And the king related his dreams before the wise men and the princes, and all that sat before the king were astonished at the vision. And all the wise men who were before the king were greatly divided in their interpretation of his dreams. Some of them interpreted them to the king, saying, The 7 good kine are 7 kings, who from the king's issue will be raised over Mitzrayim, and the 7 bad kine are 7 princes, who will stand up against them in the latter days and destroy them. And the 7 ears of grain are the 7 great princes belonging to Mitzrayim, who will fall in the hands of the 7 less powerful princes of their enemies in the wars of our Lord the king. And some of them interpreted to the king in this manner, saying, The 7 good kine are the strong cities of Mitzrayim, and the 7 bad kine are the 7 nations of the land of Canaan, who will come against the 7 cities of Mitzrayim in the latter days and destroy them. And that which you saw in the second dream of 7 good and bad ears of grain, It is a sign that the government of Mitzrayim will again return to your seed as at first, and in his reign the people of the cities of Mitzrayim will turn against the 7 seas of Canaan, who are stronger than they are, and will destroy them. And the government of Mitzrayim will return to your seed. And some of them said unto the king, This is the interpretation of your dreams. The 7 good kine are 7 queens, whom you will take for women in the latter days, and the 7 bad kine denotes that those women will all die in the lifetime of the king, and the 7 good and bad ears of grain, which you did see in the second dream, are 14 children. And it will be in the latter days that they will stand up and fight amongst themselves, and 7 of them will smite the 7 that are more powerful. And some of them said these words unto the king, saying, The 7 good kine denote that 7 children will be born to you, and they will slay 7 of your children's children in the latter days. And the 7 good ears of grain, which you did see in the second dream, are those princes against whom 7 with less powerful princes will fight, and destroy them in the latter days, and avenge your children's cause, and the government will again return to your seed. And the king heard all the words of the wise men of the Mitzrayim, and their interpretation of his dreams, and none of them pleased the king. So, the king knew in his wisdom that they did not altogether speak correctly in all these words, for this was from Yahuwah, to frustrate the words of the wise men of Mitzrayim, in order that Joseph might go forth from the house of confinement, and in order that he should become great in Mitzrayim. Okay. And the king saw that none amongst the wise men and magicians of Mitzrayim spoke correctly to him, and the king's wrath was kindled, and his anger burned within him. And the king commanded that all wise men and magicians should go out from before him, and they all went out from before him with shame and disgrace. And the king commanded that a proclamation be sent throughout Mitzrayim to slay all the magicians that were in Mitzrayim, and not one of them should be suffered to live. And the captains of the guards belonging to the king rose up, and each man drew his sword, and they began to smite the magicians of Mitzrayim and the wise men. And after this, Merod, chief butler to the king, came and bowed down before the king and sat before him. And the butler said unto the king, May the king live forever, and his government be exalted in the land. You were angry with your servant in those days. Now 2 years passed, and did place me in the ward, and I was for some time in the ward, and I and the chief of the bakers. And there was with us an ivory servant belonging to the captain of the guard. His name was Joseph, for his master had been angry with him and placed him in the house of confinement. And he attended us there. So he's telling him about Joseph in the prison. And in some time after, when we were in the ward, we dreamed dreams in one night, and I and the chief of the bakers, we dreamed, each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And we came in the morning and told them to that servant, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream did he correctly interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so was the event. There fell not to the ground any of his words. And now therefore, my lord and king, do not slay the people of Mitzrayim for naught. But behold, that slave is still confined in the house by the captain of the guard, his master, in the house of confinement. So he's telling him, Joseph interpreted our dreams. He's still in the prison. That's probably going to be the guy you're going to want to talk to get your dream interpreted. He goes on to say, if it pleases the king, let him send for him, that he may come before you, and he will make known to you the correct interpretation of the dream which you did dream. And the king heard the words of the chief butler, and the king ordered that the wise men of Mitzrayim should not be slain. And the king ordered his servants to bring Joseph before him. And the king said unto them, Go to him, and do not terrify him, lest he be confused, and will not know how to speak properly. So in other words, be nice to him. Don't get him all shook up. And the servants of the king went to Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And the king's servants shaved him, and he changed his prison garment, and he came before the king. So they cleaned him up. He probably didn't look like much sitting in the dungeon for so long. They cleaned him up and shaved him. And the king was sitting upon his royal throne in a princely dress, girt around with gold and ephod, and the fine gold which was upon it sparkled. And the carbuncle and the ruby and the emerald, together with all the precious stones that were upon the king's head, dazzled the eye. And Joseph wondered greatly at the king. And the throne upon which the king sat was covered with gold and silver, and with onyx stones, and it had 70 steps. And it was their custom throughout the land of Mitzrayim that every man who came to speak to the king, if he was a prince or one that was esteemable in the sight of the king, he ascended to the king's throne as far as the 31st step, and the king would descend to the 36th step and speak with him. If he was one of the common people, he ascended to the 3rd step, and the king would descend to the 4th and speak to him. And their custom was, moreover, that any man who understood to speak in all the 70 languages, he ascended the 70 steps and went up and spoke till he reached the king. And any man who could not complete the 70, he ascended as many steps as the languages which he knew to speak in. And it was customary in those days in Mitzrayim that no one should reign over them, but who understood to speak in the 70 languages. And when Joseph came before the king, he bowed down to the ground before the king, and he ascended to the 3rd step. The king sat upon the 4th step and spoke with Joseph. And the king said unto Joseph, I dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter to interpret it properly. And I commanded this day that all the magicians of Mitzrayim and the wise men thereof should come before me. And I related my dreams to them, and no one has properly interpreted them to me. And after this, I this day heard concerning you, that you are a wise man and can correctly interpret every dream that you hear. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, Let Pharaoh relate his dreams that he dreamed. Surely the interpretations belong to Elohim. And Pharaoh related his dreams to Joseph, the dream of the kine and the dream of the ears of grain. And the king left off speaking. So he told him, and then he remained silent. And Joseph was then clothed with the Ruach Elohim before the king. And he knew all the things that would befall the king from that day forward. So he got the Spirit, and he was told and showed what was going to happen. And he knew the proper interpretation of the king's dream, and he spoke before the king. And Joseph found favor in the sight of the king, and the king inclined his ears and his heart, and he heard all the words of Joseph. And Joseph said unto the king, Do not imagine that they are 2 dreams, for it is only one dream. For that which Elohim has chosen to do throughout the land, he has shown to the king in his dreams, and this is the proper interpretation of your dream. The 7 good kine and the ears of grain are 7 years. And the 7 bad kine and the ears of grain are also 7 years. It is one dream. Behold, the 7 years that are coming, there will be a great plenty throughout the land. And after that, the 7 years of famine will follow them, a very grievous famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten from the land, and the famine will consume the inhabitants of the land. The king dreamed one dream, and the dream was therefore repeated unto Pharaoh, because the thing is established by Elohim, and Elohim will shortly bring it to pass. So he's telling him, you're going to have 7 good years with plenty, then you're going to have 7 years of famine. And it's already been judged. Father's going to make this happen. Now therefore I will give you counsel and deliver your soul and the souls of your inhabitants of the land from the evil of this famine that you seek throughout your kingdom, for a man very discreet and wise, who knows all the affairs of government, and appoint him to superintend over the land of Mitzrayim. And let the man whom you place over Mitzrayim appoint officers under him, that they gather in all the food of the good years that are coming, and let them lay up grain and deposit it in your appointed stores. And let them keep that food for the 7 years of famine, that it may be found for you and your people and your whole land, and that you and your land may not be cut off by the famine. So he's basically advising the king just during these heavy, thick years, these good years of plenty, store up as much food as you can. We're going to have 7 years of famine. Store up as much as you can. Put people who you trust over it to guard it. And it'll be there and keep your people alive and healthy during the famine. So let all the inhabitants of the land also be ordered that they gather in, every man, the produce of his field and all sorts of food during the 7 good years, and that they place it in their stores, that it may be found for them in the days of the famine, and they may live upon it. So don't keep this a secret. Tell everybody. This is the proper interpretation of your dream, and this is the counsel given to save your soul and the souls of your subjects. And the king answered and said unto Joseph, Who says and who knows that your words are correct? And he said unto the king, This shall be a sign for you respecting all my words, that they are true, and that my advice is good for you. Behold, your woman sits this day upon the stool of delivery. So she's about to have a baby. And she will bear you a son, and you will rejoice with him. When your child shall have gone forth from his mother's womb, your firstborn son that has been born these 2 years back shall die. So he's saying, this will prove that my dream's right. As soon as your son is born, the 2-year-old that you have right now is going to die. And you will be comforted in the child that will be born unto you this day. And Joseph finished speaking these words to the king, and he bowed down to the king, and he went out rather. And when Joseph had gone out from the king's presence, those signs which Joseph had spoken unto the king came to pass on that day. And the queen bore a son on that day, and the king heard the good news about his son, and he rejoiced. And when the reporter had gone forth from the king's presence, the king's servants found the firstborn son of the king fallen dead upon the ground. And there was great lamentation and noise in the king's house. And the king heard it, and he said, What is the noise and lamentation that I've heard in the house? And they told the king that his firstborn son had died. And the king knew that all Joseph's words that he had spoken were correct. And the king was consoled for his son by the child that was born to him on that day, as Joseph had spoken. All right, so we're going to quit right here. I'll read the future thing so you know what's coming up next real quick. Pharaoh Pharaoh assembles all the great men of the kingdom and desires to appoint Joseph to govern Mitzrayim. They object because he cannot speak all the 70 languages of the earth. An angel visits Joseph and teaches him all the languages of the earth. When brought before the king, Joseph's wisdom and knowledge please Pharaoh and all the princes of Mitzrayim, and he is appointed the second to the king, and all authority is given him. Joseph is made wealthy and clothed in princely apparel, and proclaimed governor of Mitzrayim, is given the daughter of Potiphar for a woman. Okay, so we'll see that happening next in chapter 49. I want to thank you all so much for coming here. This is very exciting stuff. Love you very much. Father in heaven, Yahuwah loves you very much. We love him. Let's pray together and let him know. Father Yahuwah, we love you so much. We bow down to you for eternity, face down for you to judge us, for you to guide us. Put your hands on our shoulders. Make us walk the straight and narrow. Don't let us veer left or right. I personally backslide and sin. Please forgive me for my sins. Everybody sins. Father, we are weak. Our flesh is weak. We know that in the spirit, with you in heaven, you're going to take the fleshly desire away from us, the temptations. And we want to be there with you to enjoy it and to worship you and glorify you. Let us start now here on earth by worshiping and glorifying you with everything we do and say. Help us to do that. Help us to lead our families in your word so that we can do like this book told us. Generation after generation, teach the children, teach the children, teach your children's children. Father, we really, really love you. We need you in our life. Hold us in your loving hands and protect us and guide us. And we pray to you only in your Son, Yehusha's name, Yahuwah. We love you so much. Amen. This is Yehusha's Glory. I'll see you next time.